We're back.
Welcome back.
I would like to say that our little mid-season break has not been anticipated. If you're listening to this and you're like, "Oh, where you been?"
Where'd they
The
go?
answer is busy as shit, and for that, we can say nothing other than thanks for being here.
Don't apologize. Yeah.
We will hopefully not be taking a mid-season break next season. But to make up for it, we are releasing two in one because we didn't want to put off the end date for this season. So we will be releasing, if you're listening to this right after, then you already know. But otherwise, if this is at the top of your thing and you're like, wait, I thought there was only 8 episodes out and now there's 10, surprise! Now you get both of them in one go. So I hope you enjoy your ability to binge our content
Binge.
this week should you
Yeah.
desire to. We're happy to have you, and today's podcast is really, wait for it, juicy.
Ah! We've been teasing you about it for a long time.
I wonder what they could be talking about. um you guessed it, it's finally time for the sex episode. And you know, I feel like it's been a long time coming. We've also been like half talking about things like you know. Um, and I'm excited to talk about this fully and actually finally do this episode that we've been talking about so many times. Before we do, I do want to share with the listeners something funny. Our most listened to episode this season, so far, because maybe this is gonna put it over the edge. But the most listened to episode this season is our death episode, and I think that that's fascinating. Like that's what
I
people are
love
like,
that.
juicy. So I love that. Definitely in line with who we are as people, and perhaps a interesting thing. Maybe it's the fact that not a lot of people talk about it. You know, like I feel like there's so many pods that talk about a lot of the things that we have talked about. So um, closely followed by our actually our goals, hot take, and then our episodes about activism and money are currently tied. But our drug one's coming for them. Our least listened to episode this season has been protein maxing, and you know what? I'm not.
It's just too hot a take, perhaps. People don't want to hear
People are
it.
like, don't fucking come for my protein soda. Leave me the fuck alone. And you know, we respect that. It's always funny to see on the back end what happens. So, anyways, thanks for being here. That's a really long intro. And let's get into it, shall we? Olivia, where do you want to kick off this episode?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, as per usual, I'm conceptualizing multiple directions for this. I brought my sources.
Oh
I
boy.
have my copy of Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski.
I love that.
This is I it changed my life because it's not just a book about sex. It's not like a
Mm,
Cosmo flavored, here's, all of these fun tricks you can do to please your man. It's what is behind your feelings about sex, how
mm,
your brain and your body respond, how can you connect with yourself, how can you help your partner connect with you. And this is followed by her sequel to this. It's like a nonfiction duology now. There's Come As You Are, this first one, and then there's also Come Together, which I have purchased and not yet finished reading because the first section is a lot of review of what's
mm.
in Come As You Are. She has some metaphors that persist throughout her writing as she's talking about different couples, and she brings those back in Come Together and then establishes a new system where it's not just focusing on the self, you're bringing in other people into your relationship with sex. And I haven't gotten into that part of the book yet. But this book, it was recommended to me on another podcast somewhere, or I was watching something, listening to something, and this book came up several times. And then I watched interviews with her, and she is so matter of fact in her delivery and comfortable with talking about sex that it
Mm.
was inspiring. And I'm hoping that this episode sort of is our version of that, where we talk about our relationships with sex and our opinions and, as personal as we want to get with our experiences in hopes of normalizing a lot of things that we may feel are taboo or gross or abnormal. My goal for this
People are like,
episode.
where is this going?
Oh, well, we're going to find out as we talk. This may be a long boy because there are a lot of aspects to sex. And so, to answer the question, where do we want to start? We could start with this more academic lens, talking about what sex is and isn't, or we could start with an embarrassing story or
Yeah, we're
some
going hilarious anecdote first. Come on. Oh,
chaos.
we gotta go chaos and then go academia and then go deep thoughts.
Ah,
That's our show
okay, all
format,
right, that's
okay?
the flow.
That's the flow. So in an effort to make you laugh, I have come with an anecdote of my childhood called "How I Learned About Sex." Olivia does know this story.
The musical.
Da da da. Picture this. You're sitting in a doctor's waiting room. Okay. But actually that is how I learned about sex. Okay, so let's start here. My mom, I think I've discussed before, was a nurse. So my mom tends to have a very like clinical, very straightforward kind of thing. So she never shied away from talking about like menstruation as a concept. She was like, this is menstruation, like one day you're gonna get there, da 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 da. But I want to paint this picture of if you can already tell, I'm a deep thinker. And by that I mean I'm impatient. And even as a child, I was like, all right, what's next? What's next? What's next? And so the way that that manifested across environments was that if I was anywhere that had any amount of boredom, which was most places, I was like, what should I read? And so I would just grab things and read them. Sometimes this was like weird books. Like one time my dad, I asked to stay in the car while my dad grocery shopped and I got bored. And the only thing I found was a very dense book about Dolly, the sheep who was cloned. And I read like half of that book while he was in the grocery store. And then when he came out, I was like, let's talk about cloning. And he was like, wow, okay. So, right. This is the kind of child that I was in doctor's
Mhm.
offices, dentist's office, anywhere with like a magazine, a pamphlet, your girl was all about that life. So I was 9 years old and I was sitting in the doctor's office and I was like waiting for the doctor. Don't, yeah, my mom was right next to me because I was still little. So my mom was next to me and I was, of course, bored. My mom's like, ugh. I think my mom was just like, Camila, please figure yourself out. And so naturally, I'm like, okay, let me read a pamphlet. And so I like start looking at the pamphlets and I'm like, oh my God, I've read literally every pamphlet on the girls' side of the office. So like from girl to woman, yada, yada, yada. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm just going to go to the boys' side. So I start pulling pamphlets off the boys' side. I'm reading about, I don't even fucking know. My doctor comes in, we have an appointment, whatever. I still had the pamphlets in my hand. Then my mom says, we're going to go to the pharmacy. And I'm like, Mom, that's boring. So I'm going to sit here and read some pamphlets. She's like, okay, thank you, 45-year-old. I'll be back.
Okay.
So my mom leaves me sitting in a chair while she goes to pick up her prescription. And I open this, which is a point that I want to make, is like it's so fascinating to me that this wasn't inside of From Girl to Woman, but it was in From Boys to Men. And that's annoying and I think perpetuating all kinds of stuff that I really hope is changed. I
the
feel
last
like
20
I'm not
years.
going to get an answer to that until my own daughter is that old to be able to see what kind of pamphlets are in whatever. But I do, maybe it's me at her 18-month appointment. I want to talk about the literature that's available to my library.
Pubescent girls.
Anyways, so I'm like sitting there and I'm like reading through this From Boys to Men pamphlet, and most of it's like, I'm like, hmm. And it wasn't that I didn't know anatomy. Like, I knew that girls have vaginas and boys have penises. Yes, this was before I had, any concept of trans folks or intersex folks. So, bear with me if I sound a little bit binary in my thinking at the time, 20 years ago. And so I knew that boys had penises. That was not new to me. But what was new was when I flipped the page and it had a diagram being like, this is how pregnancy occurs. And it showed like, a penis entering a vagina. And then I was like, it felt like the world rushed at me because I just got the most straightforward, here's how this happens with no fluff. No, like, when I've heard, other friends talk about when people are like, when, people really love it. I got none of that. I just got straight a diagram. And I was horrified. So I remember like lifting the pamphlet up and like screaming at my mom, like, Mama! And she turned like concerned, obviously, from the tonality of my voice. And I was like, is this true? And she was like, oh God. So then we had to like go to the car. And she's like, I mean, I was not prepared to have this conversation today. But like, yes, it's true. What kind of questions do you have? I had lots of questions. And from then on, I knew what it was. So I was maybe in the 4th grade. So I feel like I had a fairly advanced idea of the world because I knew that. And most of my classmates obviously did not, because some of my classmates didn't even find out about, periods until couple years later. So that was kind of how I found out, in an effort to make you, as in the listener, as in our fans, laugh. I would like to tell you that before this moment, the way that I thought babies were made was I thought that because whenever a scene would come up with a lot of kissing on it on a TV screen and my parents would cover my eyes, I thought that there was a hidden button in a woman's mouth that a man pressed with his tongue, and somehow this activated. Can't believe I'm saying
pregnant.
Bah, da, da, da. And ta-da, you're pregnant. I feel like it's hilarious now to think about it, but like one of the things that I think is really important about this story is that regardless of whether or not you tell someone something, I think that it's human nature to be curious and to like fill in the blanks. So kids fill in the blanks all the time with the most hilarious of things, right? Like the most hilarious of logic. But, I think it just goes to show, like, I don't know any better. So, like, to say that that's not how it happened. And I think in that conversation about, like, when to have those talks and parents, choosing to share X or Y information with their child, like, I think that sometimes people think that like you're delivering that information for the first time, or you're answering a question that's never been thought of. And in my case, it had for sure been thought of. I just filled it in as best as I could and kept it pushing. I don't think that I could have envisioned how wrong I was. But I don't think that I'm unique in that way. I think that people, if you really were to ask, I asked someone once and she said that she thought that it was like, actually, I talked to someone once who said that she thought that it happened during oral sex. That, like, because, like, food travels through your system, whatever. So she thought that it was, like, sperm would travel ostensibly from your mouth all the way to
your stomach, and then...
Because, again, limited understanding of anatomy, right? Like, where is the baby? The baby's in the belly. Then no kid's like, oh yes, the spleen and the pancreas. Like, it's like the stomach is all we got, So yeah, that was my concept of sex as a child. And I mean, like, I had a friend who like would make dirty jokes, but I don't really think that I think that so much of my concept of sex was so warped by, I think I was doing a lot more questioning about queerness and about attraction around that same time because I was trying to figure out why I felt certain things. And as my last final self roast. And if you know me or you're my client, I really hope my clients aren't listening to this, but I guess here I am putting out my business on the internet. If you don't want to know the moment where I was like, oh wow, what's that tingly feeling inside of my stomach? Um, don't listen to the next minute and a half, I guess. But the moment that I was like, wow, and I can specifically pinpoint being like, I don't know, like how you have your first memory, right? Like everyone has like the first moment they were like aware of themselves as a person. I have that. I was singing.
Yeah.
Very I am the drama. I am the main character energy. I was like in a sheep
Use the
costume.
moment.
I was the moment. I was in a sheep costume singing at preschool. And I would just remember being like, I am a person. Very meta. Anyways, that was my first memory of being like, I have a clear memory of the first time that I was like, wow, what is this? And then later I would be like, oh, that was like actually like, I don't know if I can call it a sexual awakening, but like that was what the
Sexual awareness.
sexual awareness, not just of attraction, but of like distinct physical effect in my body from stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the moment that, you know what, I'm just going to Google it because I really feel like if I'm going to tell a story, I have to tell the story right. And I'm gonna get you this answer. But first, Olivia, I'd love to hear, did you have any weird ideas of how babies came to be before your parents had to talk with you?
Absolutely. My first experience of, not my first experience of sex personally, but me trying to understand what sex was the sex scene in Titanic, where Rose and Jack are in the car in the like cargo hold and they lock themselves in the car and it's all steamy and they're sweaty and then the hand comes down and it's so
Ooh.
cinematic. And it's a very chaste sex scene. I don't even remember if her breasts are in it or if it's just focused on her face and his face and, jump cuts everywhere. But I remember not being allowed to watch that until I was a certain age. And that age was after I received sex ed instruction. So, like, after I had gotten my period and it was understood that, okay, I'm getting older and I'm moving toward high school and I know what sex is now, like, I maybe shouldn't, air quotes, I maybe shouldn't be doing it right now, but it's okay for me to know that it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, my understanding before I knew what the mechanics actually were that were involved in sex was like, okay, sex is something two people who are very attracted to each other, at least, maybe they love each other. My impression, because it's Titanic, was that sex is something that's so emotionally charged.
Mm.
And it involves a lot of passionate kissing and it's very sweaty and it's something you do in a private place and it's when people put their bodies together somehow, but the mechanics of, in this case, straight sex when a woman is maybe being penetrated by a man, that was not on my radar. And even until I had sex for the first time, my understanding of sex was very, I would say also clinical and removed, where in my brain there are almost two camps. This is getting very personal now for me. There are.
Let's
Here
do a
we go.
sex episode. You said you mid episode. This is getting very personal.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're no longer in the theory. We're talking about Olivia's thoughts and feelings. Um, So in my brain, my understanding of sex was like two different things. It was like the emotion and the passion and the relationship between the two people. So, like all of my little paranormal romance novels I was reading where these people had sex and it was not described except for like how juicy and warm the kisses were and how
Mm.
like maybe he touched her breast or stroked her hair or whatever. But it was so abstract that when it got to the point where I was having sex, did not, I wasn't expecting the reality of it.
Mm.
I was expecting it to be a lot more cinematic and magical and emotional when really it was like putting something in a hole.
For a second, I was like, did you freeze? And the answer is no. You just said putting something in a hole and stop.
Yeah, I mean, that was what it was. My first time. And no shade at all to the person who was my first time, who I doubt is listening.
Who was putting it
Um,
in the
but
hole? I'm so sorry. I couldn't help myself.
uh, like it was, it was not, I think we're led to believe, especially as women, if we are in a straight or straight presenting relationship the first time we have sex, penetrative sex, because that's a whole other thing. There are different kinds of sex. We are led to expect this moment of complete euphoria and just otherworldly pleasure, and like the rest of the world falls away and it's just us and this person, and there's nothing better
Than that.
than sex. Like, I mean, yeah, then the moment that you have an orgasm.
Well,
And
and
large listeners have probably heard
and
like
I want to point
the
out something really important, which is it's all orgasm centered, right? We have very little discussion about what it means for, and it honestly is very centered around, yeah, like you said, putting it in the hole, but specifically achieving orgasm through penetration and like you're working towards things. And that's where I think we really miss the conversation about foreplay, about everything else that's sexual, sensual. We don't even, we don't really talk about pleasure. We talk about pleasure in the context of you want to come, you want to have an orgasm, because
yes,
everyone must
that's
want to
like
have an
the
orgasm
goal.
every single time. But you have, that's the thing, is like it's so often framed as goal based and so less framed as an experience, as curiosity, as discovery, as shitty sometimes. Shitty, and I want to be very clear. When I say shitty, I don't mean traumatizing. I don't
Abusive.
mean non consensual. I mean straight up
Consensual.
just mediocre or boring or fast or anything. Like we are led to believe, especially when we think about, you know, that I bring everything back to media, but when we think about like what's shown in TV and what's shown on like romance books, whatever, it's these marathon-esque fuck all night, can't stop, won't stop, sweat dripping down bodies.
Yeah.
And it could not be farther from the truth. Also, there's some straight, just like, there's never mentioned, and I get it because people think like it's not sexy, but like, I actually think that having genuine and like honesty, right, around not even just honesty, but like, I wish that people had talked about like the somewhat gross parts of having sex, you know? Like there are things that we like as a as a haver of a vagina, if no one was aware, I do have a vagina. Like there is so much self-consciousness that comes in puberty and as a teen that can come. And I wish that people had talked about things like body odor, things like body hair, things like, you know what I mean? Like, that is so not inside of the conversation because it's all centered around not becoming pregnant, not whatever, and like not touching
Yes.
the forbidden fruit, you know? Almost as if like the moment someone touches
Hmm.
your boob, that's it. The next step is penetration, and then you're pregnant, and then your life is
Yeah,
over.
now you're a whore.
Right. And it goes from that to suddenly it changes, and then it's like, you know, the frowned upon, like, promiscuous girls who'll just sleep around with anybody in college or whatever,
Hmm.
even though that's still very much so, like, you know, plenty of people are sexually active in unsafe ways without protection, without adequate conversations about sexual health, right? And when I say that, I feel like people are like, oh my God, that's not sexy. But like, I feel like it is. It is like for me, I think that it's not just important from a sense of like, yeah, we should have sex with people who have um, a clean bill of health. But also, I think it just stigmatizes, for example, folks that have herpes. Like, we almost force people to disclose certain things about themselves, but won't have conversations that aren't like geared around that or that aren't like, you know, it's the same thing of like people, like trans folks feeling like they have to disclose their hello, this is my genitalia, whatever it is on a first date, but we're not out here being like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, I think it just forces
Yeah,
specific people
there's
to
a
have
lot of double standards.
specific conversations when, you know, and I think it romanticizes this like unbridled passion, like salivating after one another, and like this thirst that A is not realistic, and B is not fulfilling for every person. You know what I mean? Like, I think Esther Perel, and I promise I'm coming back to my embarrassing story about myself if you're like sitting on the edge of your seat, but Esther Perel and every sex therapist I've ever read work of, seen an interview, whatever. Not that Esther Perel is a sex therapist, but you know what I mean. It talks about how the important part is the alignment. There are folks who want to have sex once a year, and if that feels good to both parties, they feel sexually fulfilled. There are people who want to have sex 5 times a week, and if that feels good to both parties and they are doing that, then they feel sexually fulfilled. And the mismatch comes out of alignment, right? When one party wants something that the other party doesn't want, or the logistics. It's harder to have sex when you have young children. That's just the reality. It's harder to have sex if you live at home. It's harder to it I feel like we don't talk enough about the logistics, about the yeah, the parts of sex that are very real, can be very real obstacles or challenges or just considerations to have, because we're so caught up in worrying that the second that it's not like, oh my God, I want to tear your clothes off every time I see you, that we're somehow deficient, or that our partner is, or that a relationship is doomed. And
Yes.
I think that, you know, like if you are, I think about this in the context of motherhood a lot, because I think it's like there's this dichotomy between the women who talk about like, oh my God, it was so hard for me to wait 6 weeks after birth to have sex. And then there's women, I'll include myself, that candidly did not have even a shred of libido for months after having a baby. First of all, I don't know what happened last time. I'm not trying to do that right now. Second of all, I was so overstimulated. I was keeping a human being alive with my body and with my mind, and my mind was in so many different places and all these things, and it just, I, also, it just, yeah, it just was not even something that I wanted to do at all. Also, I'm gonna be so straight up. For probably close to a year after my daughter was born, you know what I would do with any spare amount of time? Sleep. That's all I wanted.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, and so I think that again, there's just so many aspects of it that we don't address. And I'm not saying like in agitation and when like we're 15 and having like, sure, okay, we could get into that, because I think that the biggest portion that we don't address when we're young is honestly honest conversations about what consent looks like, what it doesn't look like, and how to advocate for yourself in the bedroom. So that's a whole other topic. But I think as like grown women, the part that we oftentimes don't want to talk about is like when we aren't feeling like we want to tear our partner's clothes off, and we aren't, I don't know, like these like uh it just like
Hungry.
yeah, when we're not sirens at home with our partners every waking moment, like I think that for sure has a time and place, and it can shift over time. I think that there are, like anything, there's phases. There's phases of life where that is how you feel about your partner, and there's phases of life where it isn't, and that's also okay. And then there's room for having sex for preparation or for wanting to connect in this way without needing a precursor to be like, I am panting after you in this moment. We must smash right now.
Yeah. I want to talk about the concept of desire because this is at the root of these kind of dissonant thoughts and feelings that we have about sex as we make these life changes and discover ourselves and get to know our partners better. There are myths that we want to dispel, and there are two in this book. I'm going to plug her again, Emily Nagoski. Please read this book. It came out, I don't know how many years ago, but the research still holds up and it's just very well done. And she talks about spontaneous versus responsive desire.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that we are taught to view and experience desire by the media, by each other, um, like socially, whatever, our cultural perception of desire is that it has to be spontaneous. That we should be, like we're saying, we should be these sirens or like temptresses. We need to always be trying to lure our partners
Mm.
and make ourselves sexually attractive and be constantly sexually attracted to our partners and just like, ooh, I saw your ass and now I want a bone. That's the expectation for desire in the context of a relationship, when the reality is that a lot of our desire, especially for women in particular, is responsive. Like we need a little something to get us going and then we want more.
Mm.
Where you can't just go from hanging out on the couch playing video games to like now we're having really passionate sex. I mean, that can happen, but not it's not as common or realistic as we are led to believe or expect for ourselves. Like we have these internal expectations that we can just go, we all should 0 to 60, where we're living our lives and then jump cut, like the movies, jump cut to my partner is lifting me onto the kitchen counter and we're gonna fuck. When
which which is so not just unrealistic based on the desire aspect, but can be so unrealistic from the perspective of um Specifically, did I die? Hold on.
Yeah, your audio. Okay. Did you connect your headphones? Hello?
Is she back? Is she gone?
Yes. Yes, we're back.
Okay. They're like, what was she saying? Specifically in terms of just like straight anatomy and physicality and able-bodiedness. There is so much built-in athleticism to our concepts of what makes good sex, and like the fact that, and it's not that these things are unknown, but it's like plenty of people, I'm gonna just say it, plenty of people cannot get the right angle without a pillow under their ass. Plenty of people
They
cannot.
make pillows for that. That's the
Right,
thing.
right. But I'm saying, like, we're never just like, that's never in the books, that's never in the movies. It's a never, hey, I sat her on the counter, or sat whatever, sat him on the counter, and then you know what, that counter and my height don't work, so we're gonna pick something else. It's a 100%, I am choosing this thing, this position, this moment, this angle, blah blah blah, and it's perfect every single time. It's perfect because it works for you and for me as the character in this scene, and also both of us reach simultaneous orgasm, and then we are great.
Yeah.
Like,
And
we're,
then there's this afterglow and
we bask.
the film continues.
We
Yes.
bask as we pant looking at each other. It's just, and again, like, I think that, yes, as grown-ups, like, we know that that's not real life, but the thing is, I don't think that people realize is how damaging, especially like how women and men, but I'm gonna speak because I'm a woman, like how damaging women realize that that is, because that's what we're comparing ourselves to when we don't do that, when
Yeah,
it does,
consciously or not.
when it doesn't work for us, the angle, the position, the location, whatever. You know what, sometimes, like, yes, I have OCD, so yes, that's part of it. Sure, but also, like, it's just, it's a hygiene thing, it's a sanitary thing. Like, I honestly, I'm gonna just put it out there again, if you're my family member, so sorry, hope you're not here. But also, the reality is, I do find it more attractive if, if Dom showers before we have sex. That's
And
just
that's normal. Like that's a thing that a lot of people prefer.
right. But that didn't feel normal for me until until I'm me. So, like, my friends and I have these conversations, but like, that's just real. You know what I mean? Like, that's that concern that, oh my God, I don't want to jump your bones when you've gotten home and you're, whatever, have whatever on your body from throughout the day. And I'm not like, oh my God, let me jump right on you, because like, and I think it's worsened by things like the, again, I think people should read whatever makes them happy, watch whatever makes them happy. And like, yes, there is like a fantastical portion of media, sure. But I think when we read so much content that is so just not thirsty in the sense that there's a lot of sex featured in it, but thirsty in the sense that
Idealized.
there's no progressive desire. There's no, I don't feel desire. Oh, my partner starts kissing my neck. Oh, I'm now awakened in that way. It's literally just zero to hero. Like, it's the reason why I struggle with books with protagonists like Fourth Wing or 50 Shades of Grey. Because they literally just look at him and they're like, his biceps are so large and I am dripping now. Or like, he
Yeah.
hungers when
Can't
he looks,
relate.
and it can't relate. I I've never, there's a scene that has always stuck out to me. Two things from 50 Shades of Grey. And I don't like 50 Shades of Grey for multiple reasons, but one of them being that there is this scene. The first time she ever has an orgasm in 50 Shades of Grey is they have sex and he is tweaking her nipple and she comes. Here's the thing. Do I think that that's possible? Sure. I'm sure plenty of people are
Yeah.
like, Dear Camilla, come every time someone tweaks. Okay, fine. But the idea that all it takes is for a woman who's never had an orgasm to reach an orgasm is like physical contact or just any amount of touch is crazy to
Yes.
me. Because I read that when I was 16 and I was like, at the
I need to
time,
get my nipples tweaked, I
sorry,
guess.
mom. Sorry, mom. I had my nipples tweaked that morning. And I did not spontaneously orgasm. Right?
Womp
Like,
womp.
shocker. The other thing that scene that I think about when I think of 50 Shades of Grey is when she's walking down the street and he calls her and she says hello and just this the line is something, I'm paraphrasing, but the line is something like just the sound of his voice and I'm almost coming in the street or something like that. And I'm
Girl.
like okay. And again, not only is it just like unrealistic in the sense of like I I have plenty of friends who love and desire their partners, and I don't know how many of us are coming every time that our partner calls us at the grocery store and we hear the sound of their voice, right? But also, it's so partner based. It's so dependent on someone else, often a man, to create this. Like there is so much trope around a woman not knowing how to touch herself or about that being taboo in and of itself, and like that's sad. I think that the lack of education around just like our own anatomy is vast, but also like I've had friends more so when I was younger. I'd like to say now as we're almost 30, so I hear this less, but I had friends who would say things like I've never had an orgasm, and they would have had partners for years, and my answer was always like, okay, do you mean like you've never had a partner orgasm or you've never had an orgasm period, like even with yourself? And their answer would be like, oh, I've never masturbated.
Yeah.
And that's like, I
Which
think,
is not uncommon.
right. And I think that it's almost sometimes more taboo to talk about masturbation
Masturbation.
or here comes the zinger. There are times when you would rather get off yourself than engage in partnered sex. And
Yeah.
that's also
Yeah.
perfectly
Both
fine.
of those things.
Are true or can be true. And again, it's not saying that
Yes.
it's if it's not true for you, if you are panting after your man when he's sweaty and he comes home, like there's something wrong. No, it's just again, I think we see only one instance, one scenario, one anything. And there isn't as much just visibility discussion even amongst friends about the very big reality of, you know, frequency and of what we actually like. And it's almost seen as like, it's so reductive. The conversations are honestly so just like, so geared towards like the gossipy aspect of, and I'm gonna put this in the context of women with men, right? Like hetero pairings, but like how big someone's dick is. And
Or how big the
that's
woman's breasts are.
right. And it's like, it's literally so not. First of all, so not indicative of. Okay, I was about to say something, but I was like, no, I'm not going to put someone on blast like that. So I will reframe to
It
say
doesn't
that.
guarantee the quality of the interaction.
Correct. Correct. I I think that I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. I think that there are some, again, straight an anatomical imbalances sometimes where people don't have a certain kind of sensation, or they like a certain kind of sensation and they think that's the only way to achieve it. But then also the reverse is like so true, right? Like now you have these products. I always bring this back to the economics of it, but like emerging markets, but like there are so many products now that are geared towards actually like shortening the depth. You know, like the, what's it called? Oh my god. Hold on, let me think. Let me think. It's not sponsored by,
This
but
is news to me.
the O nut, which is like a silicone, like a little squishy thing that you put on the base of a penis to prevent
Hmm.
like too deep of insertion.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
there's all kinds of yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that again exists, but like the taboo of it all. And I
Yes.
mean, we could get into the whole conversation about toys just as a concept, but
Mm-hmm.
there, yeah, I just think that so much of this is so idealized and so much of a fantasy that, sure, do I like to read fantasy novels? Absolutely. And there's some good sex scenes in them. Not gonna lie. I do think that media can be a accessible, safe way for people to explore ideas, concepts. Kink is, you know, like that. Sometimes that's people's first exploration, our first awareness of kink as a concept. And I don't think that we remember often enough that that's a piece of media and not like real life,
Right. Yeah.
you know?
It's fictionalized.
And then when you get to talk about the queer stuff, which I'll let you take the segment on the taboo of lesbian sex,
Mm-hmm.
it's even more
Yeah.
fictional and more like hush hush and more like how do they even do it? Because again, it's so reductive. Sex is just a penis and a vagina and that's it. And then anything else people are like, you know, jump scared about, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
a little cuckoo puffs bananas, you know? Like
Yeah. It's like this goes back to a brief thread. So to talk about gay sex, it opens up, and I think you mentioned this maybe on another episode when you were taking a class at Linfield, and or no, it was maybe before Linfield when you were taking that class and the professor was like, if you think that sex is only penetration, you're wrong.
oh yeah,
It's
my professor
that. Hmm.
DVC, first of all, put some respect on community college's name. Second of all, yeah, Jeff, who was like, if you don't think oral sex is sex, raise your hand. And then so much of the room raised their hand, and he was like, "You're literally dumb. It's in the name." Next.
Yeah. So in talking about gay sex and queerness, the concept of sex is so much more expansive because queer couples who have the same genitalia or genitalia that are not a penis you were born with and a vulva you were born with, because the vagina is the whole, the vulva is the whole thing.
Yes, so sorry for my earlier misspeak. I do have a vulva, not just the hole. More than a hole. Oh my god. I can't believe I'm putting that on. Help, my mom's gonna be mortified if she ever finds this.
We have vulvas. Like we also have arms and legs and two eyes. So them's the facts. And so point being, when two people in a sexual relationship or two people who are even just having sex one time who are not bound by, you know, like air quotes opposite genitalia, you have to get creative. You have to use other parts of your body or toys or other contexts sometimes. Like it's not just the definition of sex includes so many more things, and it does for straight couples too. But speaking from my own experience having been in several straight presenting sexual relationships, the default really is penetration. And that it just changes that assumption when you're having queer sex. Like it's not just, oh, we're leading up to this thing. Like the penetration is the final act. In my experience, again, having queer sex, that's it, that doesn't have to be the case where, it can you can try different things. There's just a more of a freedom and almost a right to exploration, because it's like we're
Mm,
already doing this thing that is not normative. Why not try all of these other things too?
mm-hmm.
And it, like if you're starting in a place where you're already doing something that is non-normative, then you just got to like commit to the bit. So there is more, I don't want to say comfort exactly, but like that I think is why you see a lot of overlap in the queer and kink communities,
Mm.
because queerness is queerness. Queer doesn't always mean your sexual identity. It can mean the way that you present, the things that you like to do. And all of that blends together to create this community that is more willing, that's the word. Yeah, not necessarily comfortable, but more willing to experiment and play. And that again goes back to this idea that the ultimate goal and the reason for engaging in sexual acts with another person or more, I mean, if there are more people involved, that's awesome for you. If you are engaging in sexual acts with other humans, we are taught to perceive orgasm as the ultimate goal, but the goal is to have a good time. The
Mm-hmm.
goal is to seek pleasure however that arrives to you. Maybe you don't have an orgasm. Maybe that's not a priority for you, and that is also normal and
And
okay. Maybe the
and
best
it's
part for you is the foreplay or dressing up, It's so varied.
100%. And I will say, really putting myself on blast. It's like a mental health episode when I was like, wow, find out a lot about me. But I will say some of the best sex I've ever had has been a sex that I didn't come during, but sex where I felt present and engaged and not distracted and really like honed into my body and the moment and the experience that I was having with my partner being so pleasurable. And I will say, okay, no, hold on, because I was gonna go on a whole tangent, but first I really want to close the loop on that funny thing that I was gonna say earlier. Brief, serious interlude for chaos. I gotta keep us on track. My brief, serious interlude for chaos is that I was trying to figure out which Pierce Brosnan 007 movie it was, and I'm torn between. I'm pretty sure that it's Tomorrow Never Dies, but there's a small chance that it could be Die Another Day. It's either Tomorrow Never Dies or Die Another Day. But the reason this is important is because there is a scene where, like, James Bond, like, grabs this grabs it. I don't even remember if it's the good one or the bad one, because the thing about James Bond is he fucks both of them through the course of the movie. So don't ask me which one it is. But they're like next to a car, and he like grabs her, and they start making out at the car, and then it like cutscene, and now they're like the next after however long in bed. Because that's the thing is James Bond has a lot of sexual themes, but James Bond is not an explicit by any means like film sexually. I mean, it obviously has themes of like violence and action and whatnot. So, anyways, the reason that that's funny, is because we had this movie on VCR, and when no one was home and this like happened, and I had like awareness of like my body and myself, and like this makes me feel something in the pit of my stomach, I would watch this scene over and over, and I would like pause it on the VCR, play it again. But only if like no
And
one
there
else.
wasn't even sex in it.
No, there wasn't even sex in it. It was just kissing. It was just like that, like maybe anticipatory because of the plot, but like that moment, like that spark, that like connection, that whatever, that was like the first time that my stomach and other parts perhaps were like, oh, something's different.
Heyo. Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's really like, I had no, kind of like we were talking about when we talked about queerness, right? I had no language to know what the heck was happening, right? And like so much of the literature, back to literature, but that's available to girls around puberty is like, oh, like you're gonna feel something, but like that's the something is never described.
It's yeah. Like what? Like I did not this I mean, because I want to come back to the taboo topic that is masturbation. I didn't know what being horny was until years after I had experienced it for the first time, because nobody tells you where exactly you feel it. It's always it's talked about in the sense that like you're going to have feelings, and when you're a child and you hear that word, you're thinking emotions. So you don't expect
Mm-hmm.
to feel physical sensations in your private parts when you're also having these feelings of attraction in your brain. So I went years, again, personal. I went years, having physical sensations in my body, and I didn't know what they were or what to do with them until that episode of The Big Bang Theory where Amy talks about her electric toothbrush named Gerard.
I've never seen The Big Bang Theory, so I am not equipped for the reference. But oh, you know what Oh my god, this is getting a little cray, but all right. So I must have been like the 7th grade, and someone brought up sitting on top of a washing machine,
For the
or
vibes.
for the vibes, or, and this is very important because I so we all remember what cell phones used to be like, right? Like an iPhone vibrates, but let me tell you what vibrates much more, and it's the freaking Razor. Okay, the Motorola Razor, the vibration on that thing was crazy. And before anyone gets any crazy thoughts, what I'm laughing at is the one time I was in the middle of youth group, and they had said like put away your phones, and I stuck my phone in between my legs because they said put away your phones, and then someone called me mid youth group. And as you can
Huh?
imagine, I was like mortified, but I also didn't want to like stick my hand in between my like jeans to like grab my phone. And my like we were sitting so close together that my leg happened to be touching someone else's leg. And I could tell you who it is. I'm not gonna say his name because that would be mortifying for myself. But I remember him looking at me and being like, because he could feel the vibration of my phone through my leg touching his. And in the moment, I was like, A, mortified, but also B, I kind of had a crush on the person that I was sitting next to.
Is this sex?
And then C, I remember being like, why does my body feel like that? And the answer was because there was a fucking vibrating object in my groin. Like, girl, what else do you think was about? You know what I mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
but again, there's just no concept of that. And it's like everything is so around masturbation is so taboo. And I read
Especially for
for
girls and
girls.
women.
Yeah, it's expected that boys, you see so much about like never walk into a teenage boy's room unannounced or stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
stiff
it's
socks.
right, like, like the the stereotype of like not getting up after class for 5 minutes means you're having an erection underneath the desk or so
Yeah,
much
putting a
dialogue
textbook in front of your
or your
crotch. Yeah.
backpack. Like there's so much conversation about erections and so little about what, like you said, what arousal actually feels like in the body. And part of that I think is a very, again, back to a book, but I read this book, can't tell you what the name of it is, so don't ask. But I remember the first line of it started with, "Your vagina is not an alien." And
Ooh.
it was discussing the fact that
Title of
boys,
the episode?
perhaps, boys have to encounter their genitalia all the time to go to the bathroom, to clean themselves, to
Getting dressed.
getting dressed. They touch their genitalia all the time. Vulva owners don't have to do that. You can go years and have no idea what your stuff looks like or whatever because of pure, it's in a, it's not in like the most clear location. So you have to actually be purposeful.
Yeah.
And this book, which I read in high school sometime, encouraged you to like take a mirror and like acquaint yourself with your own
Yeah. So,
anatomy, as I'm sure Come As You Are does too, which I've only read the intro. If anyone else is like, oh my god, that I'm not versed on the book club book, okay? So yeah, there's so much encouragement of that, and I remember the first time I did that, and I was like, it was very foreign because I didn't know what the fuck was up or down there, but like no idea.
uh-huh.
Right? But then we wonder
Yeah.
why there's all
Yeah.
these horror stories of like, high schoolers or like people in their first sexual exploration putting it in the wrong hole, for example.
Which is verifiably hard to do, but possible.
But not impossible, especially if it is not a penis and is a finger. I've never experienced
Yeah.
this,
Uh-huh.
but I remember there was a girl in high school who everyone knew that her boyfriend had put his hand in the wrong place. And it was like we just I feel like in high school you know so much about like these like very minor in the long run but major in the moment, like sexual discovery moments.
Yeah.
And at the same time we don't really talk about it even when we can be, I think that it's changing. I think that the tide is shifting. I think that people are becoming more open about it. But I was at a hangout with a friend the other day who, her and her husband are going to start trying for another baby. And she like was like, hey, like we're thinking about trying. And then she mentioned, she was like, but we've had sex maybe like 3 times since our current baby was born. And it was said in this like hush hush tone. And I was like, yeah, girl, I mean, I can count on one hand the amount of times I've had partnered sex since my like kid was born. Because like again, I wanted to sleep for the better part of a year.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look at me, don't touch me. I'm overstimulated. The sound of a cat meow would put me over the edge, not to mention someone touching me. Like, fuck off, right?
Yeah.
So I do think that there is still so much taboo around that, so much taboo around anything that isn't like the expected, polite, acknowledgement that people who have children have sex.
Yeah, yeah, sex after motherhood is a whole other thing. I'm thinking about the incredible, and I was talking to my partner about this the other day. The incredible, again, dissonance between what gets talked about or what I experienced being discussed when I was in high school and starting to have sexual experiences versus what was actually happening.
Mm,
Like, I have such vivid memories of being the girl in the group, sometimes the only girl in the group because I had a lot of guy friends, and sometimes being the girl in the group with the dirtiest mind who
mm,
was capable of making a lot of references to sex and joking about it. And I won so many rounds of Cards Against Humanity because my sense of humor at the time was that level of sexual and fucked up. So it was like that. And that was a source of pride in the
wait, why
group.
was it fucked up? Like you're,
Like you've played Cards Against Humanity?
yeah. Oh, you mean, I thought you were
Yeah.
saying your sense of
Like
sexual humor was fucked up, not the actual, yeah. Okay. Got it.
yeah, so it's like that confluence, but it was
Yeah.
like very sexual in a specific way. And I remember, because it was a game and it was like, I'm winning because my brain can imagine all of these sexual things. But then when it came time to actually be intimate with people, it was like, oh, like my boobs are too small, and that makes me feel like I'm not the sexual object I'm supposed to be, or I didn't shave my legs and I'm a yeti and I'm disgusting,
Mm,
and I don't like it when you kiss me with tongue, so I will never have the full sexual experience that, again, I'm supposed to have. So it was like, on the one end, I'm making all these jokes about, like, taking it in the butt or whatever. And then on the other end, I'm like, don't kiss me with tongue. I don't like it. Like, it was.
yeah, that's
So,
certainly a certainly a dichotomy. Um, you said something that I really wanted to respond to. Oh, the part about um like unshaved legs and you're a yeti. My mom was really not into the idea of me shaving my legs when I was in high school. So I had turned 15 and hadn't shaven my legs. Shaved, Jesus Christ. And so I bleached my leg hair for a while when I wanted to start shaving, and my mom didn't want me to. So, like, because I'm tan, I'm brown, shocker, if you've never seen me, you couldn't see anything, right? And so, like, I remember, like, maybe this was like a thing, but I vividly recall my high school, or no, my high school boyfriend, no, my sophomore year boyfriend in high school who I dated for 3 weeks. So, nothing much to write home about. But I remember just how much shame I carried after like our brief relationship because one time we were making out on his bed and he put his hand up the back of my shirt and my back had, I guess, hair like on my lower back, which is,
normal.
normal. And he was like, oh, and he like didn't want to kiss me anymore. And he like took out his hand. And I remember him being like, that's just not like a turn on. And then me being like,
So your body as it naturally is.
yeah. And then he was like, yeah, it's just not. He's like, what have you done previously when like you've been shirtless? And I was so embarrassed to tell him. I mean, I had just turned 15. I was like, I'd never been shirtless in front of somebody else, like in that context, right? Like I'd never done anything besides kiss somebody. And all of a sudden it was like the expectation that, like, why aren't you doing that? And I was so hurt when he broke up with me, and he would comment on, like, my legs or whatnot also, but I became so hyper fixated on my body hair from that person, from that encounter, from that moment. And I remember later, because I still liked him and I didn't know, to be honest, I'll straight up, as many 15-year-old girls, I didn't know what self-respect was back then. And so, like, I remember we were
Preach.
texting months later about something, and I, like, made a joke. He made a joke, or I made a joke about us hooking up. And he said something, oh my God, now I remember what it was. This is so embarrassing. I can't believe I blacked this out until this very moment. But I think I was somewhere and I sent him a picture at, like, at the beach or something. And it was, like, in my mind, so risque, right? Because it was, like, the side of my leg and the water. And I was like, yeah, yeah, right. I was like, wow.
Exposed calf.
Yeah, right. And I was like, oh, my legs are so smooth or something like that. Stupid 15-year-old shit. And he was like, or 16-year-old shit. And he was like, oh, that's not how I remember them or something like that. And I responded,
what a dick.
I know. It's horrible. I don't, negative shout out to you. I'm not even going to say his name because I'm not worth the time or energy. But I remember being like, well, a lot has changed since we were together or some stupid shit. Right? Which in hindsight,
I shave now.
Yeah, I'm a smooth woman.
I'm a woman.
But, like, there's just so much less conversation about our personal preference and so much hyperfixation on what our partners will find attractive or appealing in the bedroom, And I think that so much of that plays a huge role in the decisions that we take for ourselves when, like, at the end of the day, like, for some people it's like it literally doesn't matter. And I would say, like, if you're with someone that you're genuinely attracted to, like, there's a lot that doesn't matter. And
yeah, similar body hair horror story.
Oh God.
I cannot tell you how many times specifically, but I can tell you that it was multiple men who asked me if I would ever get a Brazilian, if I would ever be, like, totally bald down there because it would feel better for them. And, like, okay, sure, I acknowledge that there is some sort of difference in that feeling for you, but, like, you're not shaving. I'm not asking you to get your balls waxed. I'm not asking you to shave your back hair or chest hair, insert whatever here. Like, you have a beard on your face and you're asking me to get a Brazilian so that for the minutes you will be in there
proximity,
it feels better for you. Yeah. So, and it's like they took offense to it. Like, I was not as attracted to them because I wasn't willing to change my body, Like, there's this
and it's so, honestly, just, like, so toxic. And at the end of the day, like, now being a grown woman, I couldn't conceive. I have no patience for that. But I think that that's normal because, like, obviously, like, you grow, you change, you learn. But I wish that someone had told me back then that that's such bullshit. Because, like, I'm gonna be real, I just don't like body hair. I don't like it on myself. I don't like it on my partner, whatever. I'm also married to the world's hairiest man, okay? The man has hair pants. Dom could take off his...
He's got dark hair. He's hairy. He's
had a full beard since he was in, like, the 4th grade. Okay? Like, no, I'm so dead ass. Okay, we're not gonna get into that, but he's had a full beard almost his whole life. He is covered in hair. He Yeah, he jokes that he has hair pants, but it's true. It's like if Dom takes off his pants, like you could barely see his leg. It's just hair. Um, I
Nice in the
know
winter.
this is the guy who decided to get 5 tattoos of all things. Anyways, um, what was I saying about? Oh, but like that actually plays no role. Like I've never once been. I will say when he had a mustache, I'd never kissed someone before Dom. I'd never kissed someone with like a mustache or facial hair or like that kind of vibe. Like I don't know, kissing mole rats my whole life, I guess. But
Relatable.
it was different. Sure. But I've never been like, wow, you
Hmm.
have hair on your arm. Eh. And also, if I did, that would be a me
Yeah.
problem. You know what I mean? Like that's a me thing to. Because again, I'm not saying you can't have preferences. You can't like this. You can't like that. But if you want that, go find it. So like instead of asking a woman, "Are you willing to get a Brazilian for me?" Because it will make it better in my interactions with your fucking body. Why don't you just go fucking find the vast, plenty, enormous amount of women who are already getting Brazilians because that's their personal preference for their body. Go fuck them. Don't fuck me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the tea.
And yeah, and that's just straight. Uh, it makes me so sad to hear things like that because I feel like almost every woman I know, and I guess if I ask, like, has stories like that. And it's just
Yeah, whether it be about, yeah, it's not just about body hair either. It's like
no.
preferences for what you're wearing at the time. There was a long time where I refused to take my top off because I was insecure and I would have, nothing on
You
downstairs,
are Winnie
but
the Poohing.
keep my top covered. I was Winnie the Poohing. And and that, and the partners I was with, during those interactions were like, just please, 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 because I get it now as the resident lesbian on the pod. I understand wanting your partner to take their top off, but that that understanding at the time did not trump my insecurity about how my body looked then. And I mean, it hasn't changed a whole lot since. And it's just a matter of like getting comfortable with yourself, not letting anybody that anybody in the media, anybody, especially like in certain types of porn or whatever, not letting the way that other people's bodies look dictate how you feel about yours in a space that is meant to be so pleasurable, and just by virtue of you not wearing clothes or wearing not the clothes that you would wear outside, really vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, I think that that's the key, right? Is so much of sex is vulnerable. And I think like we have a perverse fascination with the things that are like dirty or like taboo. But I think that if we just, like everything else, if we just had more honest conversations, if we just actually expressed our own vulnerabilities, we would find that we're not alone in these thoughts or in these scenarios or in these, you know, choices. You saying that, by the way, reminded me of a guy that um I'll say had very explosive sex and relationship with, in the sense that it was that like movie everything I'm burning if I don't touch you kind of vibe. And I would never want to be with him ever again for lots of reasons, but um specifically that was all. And the dynamic of explosiveness, I think, can mask a lot of things. And this isn't a relationship episode, but I do think that like that passion, that fire, that does like that idea of that being like so high and then low lows really can, it can take us a long time to unpack that. And for me, it took a really long time to realize that my relationship with Dom, where it's never been like that, it's very calm, it's very peaceful, it's very, and I actually love that.
Yeah.
And I say actually because I thought when I was younger that that's not the way relationships were supposed to feel. But I thought that the same way about sex, right? I thought that it was supposed to be like this explosive crescendo. And yeah, I'll give it to those moments it was. And then also there wasn't really aftercare. There wasn't really communication. There wasn't really a lot of other things that I would have liked to have in the context of a relationship. And there was a lot of moments where I felt like my body, because it didn't match what he wanted and what I thought, quote, every guy wants, big boobs, big butt, whatever, I felt really like the orgasm might have been good, but the feelings around myself weren't. I remember the day that he told me that he specifically like pictured other women's boobs when we had sex because mine just weren't big enough. And it took him a long conversation to realize why that was fucked up to say.
Huh.
And so again, back to the whole, some of my, like, the best sex of my life, I define not based on how many orgasms or how long of a marathon or like whatever. I mean, and unsurprisingly, one would hope, but like unsurprisingly, I've been with my partner almost 10 years and I met him when I was 20. So unsurprisingly, the best sex of my life is with my husband. But um yeah, it really has centered around moments of just like you said, of play, of fun, um of knowing that I have no hangups about myself and my body and in relationship to him. And honestly, if he's not that he's ever has, but if he ever said something along those lines, I would think I would just be more confused because I'd be like, okay. But that doesn't play into our dynamic at all. I don't really. Yeah, I think we talk about it a lot. We had a conversation once where it was like, talk to me about the best sexual experience that you've ever had, like the most intense or whatever, and it was not with each
Yeah.
other, and we'd already been together like a good 5 years. This is conversations a long time ago, but and it was open and it was interesting, and we got to talk about like the mechanics, like maybe like that it's a position thing, it's a whatever thing, and I think that is like our sex life is continually evolving. It's continually changing logistically and not,
You have
again.
an open dialogue.
And that is what I wish for everyone. Because it's not about how much or how often or how explosive or whatever. It's just the environment. Like I wish that everyone had that kind of like open and secure and just fun place to think about sex and themselves.
Love. Great positive note to end on. We wish you all the most safe, enjoyable, pleasurable sexual experiences moving forward.
Yes. And if you ever feel alone and you're like, is this really weird? And you have no one that you feel safe talking about it with in your life, if you DM us on Instagram, Olivia and I would love to reassure you that you are not alone and that everything is normal and that everything is fine. And if you don't know us, even better, right? Because, like, fuck it. Who cares what we think? Um,
Yeah.
Maybe at some point we'll get more in, we'll do an episode, sex part two. Sexy again.
Oh yeah,
Sex.
I have more things to say. We
I'm
didn't talk about makeup sex. We didn't talk about
Oh.
toys.
I know. I
Yeah.
feel like the next one, it's almost like our motherhood one, right? Next time we have to talk about like gear and maybe more mechanics. Maybe what everyone actually wants to hear
Clothing.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I feel like again, it's important to start with the mindset. And yeah, I hope that this episode helps you be a little bit more open, even if it's just towards yourself, about where you're at, what you've experienced, what you'd like to experience moving forward.
And those things are allowed to change.
Yeah,
You're allowed to have preferences that you didn't have before and find things not enjoyable that you used to think were the pinnacle of good sex.
correct. And unless your tastes are, uh, I don't know, pedophilic in nature, I don't think that there's anything that Olivia and I would ever say, like, oh, that's gross. Because as long as it's between
It's a
two
spectrum.
consenting adults, live your best life, play your most play. Like, there's so many different things out there, and we would like to invite you to play more. And if you want a fun place to start, might I recommend How to Build a Sex Room on Netflix? Because I feel like it's a great entry point to thinking about mechanics and things and experiences, and with people that haven't thought about those things and have different needs and have different levels of knowledge and understanding. And it's also just fun. So why not?
Okay. You've got your recommendations. You've got some book recommendations,
Show.
some show. Yeah. And now we're going to recommend some music to you. What have you been listening to this week?
To be honest, I've been listening to a playlist that's on Spotify because I've been doing a lot of like deep brain work. And while I tried the like no vocals, just instrumentals, I am a person that stuff is really hard for me to focus to because I almost feel like for me vocals keep me on track. So there's a playlist called by Rifle 13 on Spotify, and it's literally called songs on repeat to get shit done. So I sometimes will just throw a song from that playlist on repeat. So this week it's been Go by the Chemical Brothers and Here With You by Lost Frequencies in That Sky.
Right on repeat. I have been listening to. I'm trying to cull my liked songs on Spotify
Oh, wow. That's an
because
endeavor.
I tend to just listen. Well, I mean, not really, because what I do is I make so many playlists for specific moods that my liked songs is under 150 songs
Oh,
because they're songs that are just like good.
never mind. I've
Um,
never called my like song. So if you ever do shuffle play on that, I don't know what you're going to get. A lot.
yeah, it's a lot. It's gonna be some T-Pain, some baby songs.
You'd be surprised. There's just about everything
Damn.
in there. But anyways, so what have you been up to this week? Oh,
I'm still on my Olivia Rodrigo Drop Dead grind. That
okay.
has not left my head since she released it. But I'm also getting back into my sad boy indie pop garbage. I rediscovered some songs by Nightly, who I've seen live a couple of times, and they're just, just three bros from Nashville or wherever they're from who make indie pop bops, and they released a Halloween themed album on Halloween where all the titles of the songs are like werewolf and haunted, and they're like these, extended metaphors of relationships that have gone wrong. So that's kind of fun.
I love that for you. I love the variety that exists between your and my moods, and also musical preferences. With that, we leave you. Thanks for listening to this big boy. Olivia calls them long boys. I call them big boys.
Yes, long boys, big boys, same diff. It's our last episode of season 2. We're going to be taking a break for over a month, but big things are going to be happening. We're not just doing nothing while we are
Yes.
on these breaks. That just means you won't get new episodes.
Correct. And we are doing our best to continue to streamline our everything to make sure that we can bring you episodes every week on a consistent schedule. But you know what? This is the end of a 20th episode, Olivia. We are officially past twice, like, double digits. Which I think is amazing. And we're just so grateful that you've come along this journey with us. We will see you in a couple weeks. If no one leaves us I feel like I'm just gonna start posting on Instagram and being like, send me a screenshot of your review, or I'm gonna send you photos of me sobbing late at night. Like, I just don't know what we need to do to get the people to send us. Or do you guys just need better, like,
Please.
What do you need? Better motivation.
What incentives?
Yeah. What incentive?
What do you get if you leave a review?
I don't know. Well, Venmo between now and the season 3 opener,
June, whatever. Yeah.
we will Venmo someone an undisclosed amount of money if you let us know that you loved us or you could be $1, could be $100. You won't know.
Oh, mystery.
You won't know until you do it.
Yep.
Or maybe we'll just decide to go crazy and
we
just
also
start
are still
just doing all of them. I'm just gonna start paying you guys. You want a cup of coffee to your favorite shop?
Yeah.
Sure, I'll buy for you next week if you leave me a review. Okay.
We're also getting close to 400 listens across 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And once we hit 400, I don't know what's going to happen. Once we hit 500, 500's real special.
Yeah, it's true. So listen to our shit. Leave us reviews. Stay super fucking messy. And we'll see you next season. Bye.